Welcome to How to Love Yourself, where we believe that self love isn't selfish, but it is the pathway to nourishment so that you can actually give of yourself more fully, more freely, and joyfully. Today, I'm going to talk about how to get into a state of being able to give and receive love more fully. So, to kick this off, I'm going to start us with a mind body connection exercise called resourcing. And I'm going to invite you to think of a memory where you just stands out to you and you can recall feeling very loved by the people in your life. So take a minute, pause the video if you need to, and we just want to think of that specific memory. I'm going to ask you some questions about that memory to help you engage with it. So you do want to have a specific kind of time and space if you can remember it. I'm going to invite you to put your hand on your heart and on your gut if you feel comfortable. We're just going to take a couple breaths to start this exercise off. Breathe in and breathe out. And breathe in again and breathe out. And when I'm doing my breaths, I love to imagine that the muscles are inflating, sort of like a balloon, and when I breathe out, the muscles are sort of deflating. Next, I'm going to invite you to draw attention to different parts of your body, and we're going to do that same thing. Every time I name a part of your body, I want you to imagine that part, those muscles inflating with air, and when you breathe out, you are deflating them, and the goal is to get those muscles to just melt. So I'm going to invite you to breathe in again and breathe out. And we'll start by putting our attention onto the head and facial muscles. And we're just noticing, are they tight? Are they loose? And we're going to breathe in. And breathe out. And then we're going to draw that attention over to the neck and shoulder muscles in the body. And breathe back in. And breathe out. Letting those muscles melt. Then we're going to bring that attention into the chest and heart region of the body, breathing back in. And breathe back out. Now drawing that attention over to the pelvic and the hip region of the body, breathing back in. And breathe out. Last, we're going to draw that attention into the legs and into the feet area of the body, and we're breathing in and we're breathing out. Now let's take a minute and think about this memory where you felt so incredibly loved. And I want you to name in yourself, look around the room. What do you see? Are there people with you? Do you see buildings? Do you see nature? What colors are there? We're going to breathe in again. And breathe out. And we're going to draw our attention to the sense of sound. What do you hear? Are people talking? Is there chatter in the background? Are there leaves rustling? Are there humming sounds of electronics around you? Any animals? Breathing back in and out again. I'm going to ask you to draw your attention to your sense of smell. I want you to think, were there any foods around you that you could smell? Can you smell nature, dirt? Is there a smell to the building that you were in? Even body odor, even if it wasn't a pleasant smell. What smells can you recall from that place and from that time of being so just ravished and loved? And I invite you to breathe in again and breathe out. Now we're going to draw our attention to our sense of touch. I want you to think about what clothes you were wearing. Did they feel tight or loose? Are you sitting? Are you standing? What pressure do you feel on your body from points of contact, whether that's the ground, or you're leaning up against a wall, or sitting in a chair, laying on the couch? Maybe a person is touching you, hugging you. I invite you to breathe in again and breathe back out. Next, I'm going to invite you to put your attention onto your body sensations. Do you feel a fluttering in your chest? Are there certain muscles that might be tense or loose from this feeling? Sometimes a feeling of love can feel like warmth in certain areas of the body. It can feel like expanding. It can feel like bubbles. It can feel like, soaring up. It can, that weightless feeling of being, when you're in an elevator, it can feel like that. It's going to feel different to every single person. There is no right or wrong. It's just what was your experience. Breathing in and breathe back out. Next, I'm going to invite you to think about almost like you're hovering above yourself in this scene and watching yourself. What thoughts are you thinking? Can you identify what thoughts you were thinking? Can you name any emotions you were feeling a little bit more specific than love? Maybe you were feeling connected. Maybe you felt seen, known, cherished. Maybe you felt like the pressure was off. Maybe you felt like I could just be me in this moment. Relief from pressure, relief from performance, relief from being something, but you just get to be you. I just want you to sit in that feeling for a minute or 2 minutes or even longer. Feel free to pause this video and take as much time as you need to let that feeling of love just nourish your whole being and really let it affect you from your head to your toes. Breathe in and breathe out again. That's perfect. I really hope that you enjoyed that exercise. I hope that it helped you feel just a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more loose, a little bit more receptive. And now we're going to jump into some of the science behind what keeps us out of that state of being loved and how the stress response can impact our ability to give and receive love. And I also want to talk about the science behind why this exercise is so powerful. And I hope that you love this, but if you didn't love it, I really want to encourage you to, try it about a dozen times, because it does take time for neural pathways to form for an exercise. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for it to be effective for some people. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to build that muscle memory and that connection to what's going on inside of your body. So I really want to encourage you, like, if this was uncomfortable or if this was a little bit strange for you, that there is just so much space to have that change with some practice. So I'm hoping that the science will help encourage you to kind of press through maybe some of that discomfort and understanding that, wow, this can be really powerful. And if it's not for you, that's okay. There are lots of other exercises that I plan to teach on. And I am sure that one of them will be just perfect for you. Now, I'm going to jump into some of the science behind self love and self separation, kind of how that happens. So, I am going to flash back to 10th grade biology with you for a minute, and I want to think about hydrophilic and hydrophobic. Do you remember that? Hydrophilic is water loving. And so if you mix a hydrophilic substance like Kool-Aid in with water, you get a single drink. You get one new substance. And when you try to mix a hydrophobic substance with water, what happens if you mix oil and water together? They kind of separate. The oil is going to bead out, the oil might raise to the surface, but you don't have one substance, you have two substances. And those things are kind of coexisting in division with separate properties. And what I love about that imagery is that philic in Latin means loving. Water loving means it's integrated with water, it mixes with water, it becomes one with water. And hydrophobic, meaning water hating, that means that it's going to be divided from. It means it doesn't mix. It means it's separate. And so if we take that idea and we put it onto ourselves, when we are internally divided, that is, and as uncomfortable as it sounds, self-hatred, being internally divided. But self-love is the act of coming together, is the act of being one and being self-connected. And so I want to talk a little bit about the stress response and how that impacts us and creates this environment of self separation. So, what I have here is a picture of the brain. And on that brain, you're going to see a line where it's dividing us into an upstairs brain and a downstairs brain. So the upstairs brain is going to be our higher thinking function. So I want you to imagine these are the things that set us apart as humans. It's our critical thinking skills. It's our ability to sequence. Like if you walk into a room and you want to clean it, that's the part of your brain that decides, what do I do first? We want to think about things like being in a relational brain is open, and that relational brain is in the higher functioning part of our brain. We want to think about visionary work. We want to think about creativity. These are all things that are kind of governed by the frontal part of the brain, by the upstairs brain. And then I'm going to show you to look at the downstairs portion of the brain. That is our primal function dominant space. So that's going to be in charge of things like evaluating threat, quick movement. It's going to be in charge of these functions that are going to help us to survive at a basic level. It's in charge of breathing. And so, what happens when we are in a non stressed space or a regulated space is the blood flow is going to the brain evenly. And when the stress response is activated, and stress response is defined by when our awareness of threat becomes bigger than our awareness of safety. So, when our awareness of threat goes up, and it's bigger than our awareness of safety, our brain is going to do something that's actually really incredible. It prioritizes our resources to the primal functioning brain. It prioritizes to the fight or flight mechanisms so we can survive. So when we're in the woods and we come up against a bear, we want that to happen. That is to help us live. It's to help us survive, because I don't need to have a 5-year plan when I'm fighting a bear. I need to be able to run really fast, or I need to be able to hit really hard. And so prioritizing those resources to the primal functions is a really beautiful thing that our body does. But what happens when we are in prolonged states of stress? What happens is the blood flow is prolonged, moving away from those higher functions of the brain, and it causes difficulty in our ability to think and process and um, function in relationships. It causes all kinds of problems when the stress response is activated for long periods of time. And so we talked about the on switch to the stress response, which is threat awareness being bigger than our awareness of safety. But there's also an off switch. And Dr. Stan Siegel talks about something called attachment being the off switch. So, attachment is our relationship with our early caregivers and the people that were around us. And when we have a healthy attachment, when we have a secure attachment, the stress switch goes on. And then for that stress switch to be turned off, we need to be seen, validated, heard, known, understood. We need to feel safe, which not just physically safe, but emotionally safe. So that means free of criticism. That means free of put downs. That means people that believe in you, people that see you, and having a sense of connection and community. And we also need to be soothed. And I think can't help but think about my toddler, because he's in that brain development phase where he's kind of constantly flipping his lid and having those tantrums, and everything feels really big to a toddler, right? And so I'm constantly sitting with him, and I'm seeing him, and I'm showing him safety, and I'm helping to soothe him. And sometimes that looks like humming. Sometimes that looks like rubbing his back. Sometimes that looks like affection and holding. Um, there are lots of ways to create a sense of soothing. But the point that I'm trying to make is we really want to think about this crucial period of our life, which is from 0 to 7, before our logic develops in our brain. We just kind of receive the world around us as true. And whatever is around you, we see as normal, we see as correct, we see as good. And um, whatever our experience was, we're going to take that into adulthood with us. And so, if there were any areas of our life where we were missing that experience of being seen, being safe, and being soothed to help us train our brain to turn down the stress response. And I also just want to say, like, we all have these spots, and it's on a spectrum from mild to severe, but every single person has spots in their life where we can learn how to be with ourselves, because no one has a perfect upbringing. No one has a perfect community that responds in this magical way all of the time. We all have spots in our experiences around um, having that stress response disarmed. And so when I talk about mind body connection exercises, this is the learning and the how to see yourself, cue safety, and how to soothe yourself out of the stress response so that we can get back to that place of being able to give and receive love. Now, I'm going to show you something called a window of tolerance. And this is just like another tool to help us visualize what our nervous system is doing. So, inside of the window of tolerance, we have the flow zone. And inside of the flow zone, we are able to respond flexibly to the ups and downs of our day. So if I'm inside of my flow zone, it's going to be normal that, like, maybe I'm driving and I get cut off in traffic one time. And I might get a little bit escalated. I might get a little angry. I might get a little anxious because, hey, that was a little bit scary. But I'm able to calm back down and I'm in control of myself. Maybe something else happens and it makes me feel sad, or I hit a wall and I get really tired and I go down into my blue zone a little bit. But once again, I'm able to regulate back out of it because I have this flexibility to my nervous system that I can handle the ups and the downs without getting stuck in either place. And so, what happens when we are in these high levels of stress is we get stuck in our upper register, which is our fight response and our flight responses. And so these are going to be connected to emotions like anger or anxiety, or even overexcitement. I don't know if you've ever seen a little kid that just gets crazy and gets those zoomies and they're like giggling and giggling and they can't turn it off. And you're like, what's going on with this kid? Like, they're manic. They're in like a mania. Excitement can also be dysregulating. A lot of people think that um, our emotions are all like, stress is always negative, but there's actually positive things that can add stress too, pleasant things that can add stress. But when we're looking at our nervous system capacity, it's really looking at our total load and our ability to be flexible and responsive to it all. So we want to be thinking about these areas where we get stuck. That's a sign that we are in need of some extra attention to be able to invite that being seen, being safe, and being soothed into whatever that specific area of our life is. And we will be able to maintain greater self control. We will be more connected. We will be more calm. We will be more curious. And we'll be able to show up to the people and projects around us in a way that we can be really proud of. And that's something that it's a really huge thing that I have a heart for, is helping people. Like, I want you to be able to go through an experience that might be challenging for you, and be able to look at that time and say, I am so proud about how I showed up to that experience. It was really challenging, and I was grounded through it all. I was in control through it all. Yeah, it was really difficult, but I did it and I'm proud. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the piece that I wanted to share about stress and the nervous system. And so the stress response is naturally going to be chaotic. It's like, if you look at heart rhythms, when someone is in fight or flight mode, their rhythms are off the charts. They are going all over the place. But if you look at someone's heart rhythm when they are in a regulated space, they are even, they are rhythmic. And that's kind of what we're really trying to go for when we want to be in a place of being able to love ourselves and to be able to love others. The goal is we want to be in that flow zone, because the flow zone is what is compatible with the loving actions, the loving behaviors, the loving thoughts. A lot of times, I think in culture, we work in behavior management. So a lot of times in Western culture, we work in terms of behavior management. I want to lose weight, so I'm going to manage my behavior. I'm going to get on a diet plan, and I'm going to follow a workout plan, and then I'm going to lose the weight, right? And so that's great in theory, right? It makes sense, but how many people at the beginning of the year set goals and they have these New Year's resolutions, and I think it's something like 85% relapse by 2 weeks in. They give up on their goals. And I think it is a picture into the idea that behavior management really maybe isn't the best way to do things. Maybe it's not the most effective. But when you work with your nervous system state and you learn how to regulate first, you are taking a challenge, and like something that would have been like climbing up an icy hill in the middle of a snowstorm becomes a brisk walk, right? It becomes so much less difficult. Um, because we are working with our nervous system instead of trying to steamroll it. And then, kind of coming back to that idea of self love, how much more self loving is it to work with your body instead of trying to fight it and control it and against it? Because here's the thing, is that your body has so much knowledge, it has so much wisdom. And when you start facilitating that mind body connection, when you start doing these practices and you're de escalating the stress response, and you start getting more connected to your body, you are going to gain so much wisdom about what you need, about what you want, about what works for you, about what doesn't work for you. When you're in that place of self connection, you have this whole new world open up to you around how to show up. You I just can't, I'm trying to find the words for it. It's just, it's like, um, it's like you, it's like my whole life. I was just kind of like wandering around without a GPS, and I was trying to like find some destination of happiness or something like that. But when I started doing mind body connection exercises, it was like I found the home that was already inside of me, and I was able to connect to it. And then it was like, let's go on this journey together. And so that's what's so incredible to me about this. And that's what I really want to invite other people into, is to find that home that's already inside of you. It's not outside of you, it's actually already here. It's just, how do I get to it? It's how do I slow down? How do I pay attention? How do I access what is already a treasure that exists within me? Thank you so much for being here for How to Love Yourself today. I wanted to go over a couple of key takeaways for our time together. The first key takeaway is self love equals self connection, self hatred is self division. The second key takeaway is stressed states are incompatible with self loving behavior. If you want to give and receive love more fully, we want to learn how to disarm stress and get self connected first. And number three is your body is wise. When you start to connect your mind and your body together, a whole nother world opens up to you about what you want, what you need, what gives you purpose. And so when we can live in that self connected state, we don't just show up better for ourselves, but to the people and projects in the world around us. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time.